The person who's posted it on here isn't the actual author of the story. And when I've tried to go look for the author before, I haven't been able to find them because they said try on AO3, and when I've looked, I couldn't see. Well, I've searched for them and I just couldn't find it. So I'm gonna read it and take the risk anyway. So as you can see, it's Dirty Laundry and it's a klance story. This could be fun. Yeah, they've put the original author on there, and just bear in mind I haven't read this, and as always, if I say Raven instead of YN, then it's just because YN is my character I make up. Anyway, day 0, group chat. Lance is kinkier than Shiro. Members: Firelord, Choke Me Daddy, President Taquito, Pigeon, Hunky Monkey, Princess Fuckboy Killer. 2:14 p.m. President Taquito, Lance Sanchez said, "Guys, I need your help." At 2:19 p.m. Pigeon Pidge Holt said, "What?" at 2:19 p.m. Actually, I'm just gonna say the person. No, I'll just say what it says because you can figure out which character I'm on about. And I can't be bothered to edit it out. So, I need major help for help, and I don't know what to do. Jesus Christ, spit it out. Shit, my phone's about to die. Quick, where are you? And I'll come and find you. Library, 2nd floor. Keith shut his phone off and slid against the back of the cushioned chair, obviously irritated. Lance is heading over. Shiro looked up from his laptop, fingers halting from their place at the keyboard. Just pause real quick. I'm pretty sure there was an ambulance that's just gone up my road, but that's not an odd occurrence. Anyway, let's continue. To study, or is he coming to watch Naruto like last time? Keith cringed at the thought. He despised Naruto more than anything other ridiculous anime Lance wasted his time on. Keith couldn't even remember the amount of times Lance had ushered him into watching his cartoons, usually with Japanese subtitles and excessive amounts of screaming. He needs help or something. Keith gave all the information he knew and shrugged. Pidge audibly groaned, even, not gasped. Brain no work, apparently. Anyway, Pidge audibly groaned, visibly sulking their entire body away from their laptop screen. I bet he forgot his school ID again. He keeps making me search it up on the school mainframe. Isn't that, I don't know, illegal? The smirk on Pidge's face was devilish. Only if you get caught. Anyways, Keith changed the subject. He's being annoyingly vague on the issue. It wasn't until a few minutes later that the sound of Lance's cries echoed from the side of the library. Keith watched as a hysteric Lance came sprinting from behind the corner of the bookshelf, nearly pinning a girl and the librarian in the process. Keith chuckled when the librarian almost killed Lance, the older woman scolding him with a pointed finger. The moment the librarian was out of sight, Lance made his quick escape to their side, announcing at a volume much louder than the library appropriated. Lance slammed his palms on the table and cried, "I have a predicament." "What's up?" Shiro asked, unfazed by the paper and books that had suddenly fallen from the table's sudden movement. "What's up? What's up? I'll tell you what's fucking up." Keith groaned outwardly, slamming his laptop shut. "If you say the sky, I swear to fucking God." "No." Lance flung himself into the fourth chair. "But actually, yes. But that's not what's up. What's up is my abuela. She's coming to my parents' house for Christmas." Keith gave the boy a deadpan stare. "So? It's just your grandma. She loves her. You love her and stuff, right?" "Of course I do." Lance flung his hands into the air. "That's what makes my problem even worse." "I'm confused." Lance leaned forward into the table, pressing up against the wood with his palms. "Here's the dealio. So I'm bisexual. We know. You won't shut up about it. And you know how I came out my bit. And you know how I came out in my sophomore year of high school? Well, my family was super ew at first, but now they don't give a shit. How does that have anything to do with your grandma?" Lance pushed a finger against Keith's lips to shush him. "I'm not done yet. See, after a while, my family and extended family were like, 'It's okay if you want to date Lance, date whoever you want.' But my abuela, she's super against it. Extremely so." "But you liked it?" "Yes!" Lance yelped with his head flung backwards in a distraught frenzy. "But it's even more complex than that. She's mad that I've never introduced a girlfriend to her. She's like..." Lance immediately switched into a different accent, one to use to mimic his grandmother. "Chiquito, you haven't brought me a beautiful woman. You are such a handsome boy. You must have many attractive women kissing the ground at your feet." Pause right here. I'm going to just say I'm sorry if I butcher half of these words, because I don't know how to pronounce them. I'm going to apologise right now. Anyway, let's continue. Keith snorted. "Yeah, your grandma has no idea." A growl escaped Lance's lips as he whacked Keith's arm with one of the textbooks. "This is important, so stop being an asshat for 5 minutes and listen." Keith raised his hands up in defense. All right. "Anyway," Lance shot another glare into Keith's direction. "As I was saying, my abuela, she expects me to bring home a girl. I need to find someone to be my girlfriend for Christmas." "Why is that an issue?" Pidge slid the glasses up against their nose. "I mean, you've gone home without a girlfriend before. Why is this Christmas any different?" A sheepish gaze crept onto Lance's face. "Well, I sort of, kind of, spit it out," Keith yelled, earning a few angry shushes from the librarians. He was getting tired of Lance's vague storytelling. Lance gulped down a breath of air and waited until the librarians had dispersed. Then he finally spoke, his voice low, just above a whisper. "I told my mother that I'm bringing home a boyfriend instead." Keith suddenly couldn't help it. He was laughing. Lance slouched his body into the chair and rolled his neck backwards, nose pointed towards the ceiling. He rubbed his temples. He rubbed at his temples, Keith still laughing into his sleeve at the left. "That's it. I'm gonna die alone." You're not gonna die alone, Shiro sternly voiced, comforting Lance with a hand to the shoulder. I'm sure there are lots of people who would love to date you. Uh-huh. Shut up. Another loud, gleeful snort escaped Keith. Uh-huh. Sure. Lance was unfazed by Keith's comment, too engulfed in his panic to care. I mean, how the hell am I going to find a boyfriend in 2 fucking days? And originally I thought of saying boyfriend instead of girlfriend would be a good idea. A boyfriend would be easy to find, right? I could just ask one of you guys, but then I remembered my abuela and she's homophobic and she tugs at my ears and she's intimidating and passive aggressive and he was pulling at his hair now, body back up, bright and tensed from stress. Geez, just make a boyfriend advertisement on Craigslist. Pidge finger flew at the keyboard, now completely engulfed in their essay. They were no longer interested in conversation. Keith wasn't either, now on his phone. Now, with his phone pulled out and with Twitter on the screen. Hell no, that'd bring weirdos. Lance twisted his head to the right, giving Shiro puppy dog eyes. Shiro, will you come to my house for Christmas and pretend to be my boyfriend? Lance whimpered, instantly puckering his lips and clasped his hands together. Please? I'm sorry, Shiro began, looking sympathetic yet relieved. I'm going to Alora's house for Christmas. Lance cursed something under his breath before turning to Pidge. What about you? Come on, Pidge, we could... Not a chance. Pidge's tone was sincere and final. They stood up to put their laptop and books, to put away their laptop and books, stuffing the items into a large green backpack. It appeared Pidge had had enough of the library for one day. What about Hunk? Lance continued, now grasping at straws. He'd totally be willing to help me out. Pidge pushed their chair in and swung the backpack over their shoulder. That is a negative, actually. Hunk's sister's getting married back in Hawaii. There's no way you can pry him from that. Fuck, Lance stammered, slamming his palms against the table. Guys, what am I gonna do? Ask Keith to go. He's not even leaving campus for Christmas. At the sound of his name, Keith looked up from his phone. You need something? He hadn't been paying attention, which only made him more vulnerable to Pidge's dastardly plot. So, Pidge muttered, the gears in their head practically screaming. You're not going anywhere for Christmas, right? Yeah, Keith answered slowly, sensing ideas forming. So, Pidge wore a demonic smile. Then there's nothing holding you back from pretending to be Lance's Christmas boyfriend? Wait, what? Keith cried, giving Lance a disgusted look. Hell no. No way. No fucking way. Everyone but Keith, who was honestly super oblivious, noticed the red that was growing on Lance's cheeks. It was vibrant against his dark skin, and anyone could tell, again, except Keith, that Lance was embarrassed and actually debating the idea in his head. You can't actually think this is a good idea, Keith protested to Lance. I mean, we'll kill each other. Lance said, of course I don't like the idea. It's the worst fucking idea Pidge has ever made, which is saying something. Better than your stupid plans, Lance. And believe me, I do not want to do it. But, well, Lance swallowed. Lance swallowed and turned even redder, if possible. You're my only option. Keith couldn't believe this. No. Please? No. Lance suddenly scrambled out of his seat, only to crawl around the table and kneel at the base of Keith's chair. Shiro was laughing behind the covered hand now. The red had disappeared from Lance's face. Please? Keith swore viciously and turned his head away so he didn't have to look at Lance's pathetic state. No way, Sanchez. I'd rather die. Please? Lance whined, drawing out the vowels long and profusely. I'll do anything. This sparked Keith's interest, and he raised an eyebrow. Having Lance Sanchez indebted to him didn't sound half bad. Keith slowly spoke, sounding out the syllables. Anything at all? That, my friend, is kinky. Pidge swung around on their heels, harshly walking as far away from the table as they possibly could. I'm out of here before Lance is sold into sucking Keith's dick. Pidge waved a hand behind them while racing towards the library stairs. They turned to the banister and were suddenly out of sight, probably on their way to find Hunk. This is not what I was suggesting, Lance insisted, then focused back on Keith. He stood up from his place on the floor and backed away a little. Both boys were blushing now. I was gonna offer a week of laundry or something. Keith shook his head immediately. That's an awful trade. I'd say it's more like a whole month. Maybe 2 of month of laundry. Maybe 2. 3 even. Lance held. What? That is way too much. I'm not cleaning your nasty underwear for 2 whole... Lance? This time it was Shiro who spoke, his laptop now put away in his bag. This is a great deal. I'd take it. He gave Lance a pointed look. One that Keith didn't really understand. For a moment, the 2 boys seemed to have a silent conversation. Finally, Lance turned his head to Keith, his mouth tilted in a small frown. It was obvious that he was regretting everything about this. Fine. 2 whole months of free laundry in exchange for 2 weeks of you being my fake boyfriend. He stuck out his hand, holding it in front of Keith's face to shake. Deal? Keith hesitated for a moment. Was this really worth it? Hardly. Lance was an asshole, and he wasn't sure what fake dating would entail, but free laundry was free laundry, right? In a quick exchange, the 2 of them shook each other's hands. Keith gave Lance a curt nod, looking at his dark blue eyes for a second. All right, it's a deal. God, Keith was going to regret this. Day 0, Thursday, December 15th, 2:45 p.m. 2:54 p.m., not 45. Sorry. Anyway, Jesus, how much shit are you even bringing? Lance poked his head out from behind the car trunk, now filled to the brim with both of their luggage. It's 2 weeks, Keith. I'm being smart about this. Keith scowled. You're never smart about anything. Lance's head disappeared back behind the trunk to continue his ridiculous ridiculous luggage organisation. But not before Keith flipped the bird. The car was small and old as shit. A nasty Corolla from 1987. Lance had defended her, proudly calling the car his little lady. Obviously, Lance knew nothing about cars. The thing was an ugly sight. Three dents, several scratches, and an ugly shade of beige. Keith couldn't believe they'd be driving all the way to Arizona. Driving the thing all the way to Arizona, sorry. 19 hours with Lance. 19 terrible, long, ridiculous hours. That was 1,140 minutes of dealing with Lance's obnoxious music taste. That would also include off-key singing, bathroom pit stops every other hour, and the decision to eat at McDonald's for every single meal. Keith was close to death. He could feel it. I thought the driver was supposed to pick the music, Keith mentioned when they switched positions at the pit stop on the edge of Oregon border. They'd been driving since 3, and Keith was ready to listen to anything other than Beyonce, Kesha, or Nicki Minaj. Why hadn't he brought headphones? Nope, Lance answered in response, popping the P. He hopped into the passenger seat and began to lean his seat back. Owner of the car chooses the music, and that's me. I'm the owner. Well, that rule is bullshit. Keith didn't protest much else, hoping that Lance would fall asleep so he could steal the aux cord from his phone. His plan worked out well. Driving for 5 hours, he had truly worn out Lance. After Keith listened to Beyonce's Halo for the 4th time that trip, Lance was out cold. He slobbered onto the pillow that lay smooshed between the car window and his head, soft snores vibrating from his lips. Keith drove for another hour and a half. Keith drove, happily content with Lance's soft snoring and his preferred music at a low volume. Lance mumbled into his pillow, wiping the dried saliva that had now stuck to his chin. What time is it? Keith sighed, realizing his happy piece was over now that Lance was awake. Check the clock. Lance peered over at the analog clock. 9:39 p.m. He wiped his eyes like a baby and became accustomed to his surroundings until Keith noticed him scrunch up his nose in disgust. What? Keith questioned, referring to the look of revulsion. Are you listening to Depeche Mode? Lance, sorry if I pronounced that wrong, but anyway. Lance muttered, sitting up, straighter in his seat, now fully awake. Like, unironically? Yeah, so. Lance snorted. That's fucking cringy. Depeche Mode is emo 80s music. And your music taste isn't cringy. Keith scoffed, rolling his eyes. You listen to Beyonce. What are you, a mom in her late 30s? Lance gasped as Keith had muttered sacrilege. Beyonce is a wonderful gift to mankind. How can you not think so? Oh my God, Keith groaned, tightening his grip on the steering wheel. You're so gay. What? You're the gay one? I'm bisexual. Keith opened his mouth to protest, but couldn't think of any words to say. Lance was technically right on that one. They drove through the night, each switching spots every 2 hours so the other could get sleep. They came to an agreement after bickering that whoever drove could pick the music, and Keith had triumphantly played his Depeche Mode and Pet Shop Boys during his turns. He even tossed in a few modern songs like MRC and Panic at the Disco, all of which Lance knew the words but claimed were ridiculous. Honestly, driving with Lance at night wasn't half bad. Whenever one was awake, the other was asleep. They didn't have to talk, which meant no bickering and no salty comments. Keith liked driving with only his headlights on to see, and the combination of the car's hum and music at a low volume, and Lance's steady breathing, all created something serene. Plus, Lance was cute when he was asleep. He wasn't an asshole. And when... Bleh, one sec. And the way his long eyelashes lay closed against his skin made him look innocent. Except he was slobbering, and Keith couldn't help but think of him as a tall, lanky baby. After stopping for breakfast at McDonald's around 6:40 a.m., the two of them were fully awake. Lance was driving now in Arizona and on the main highway past Phoenix. Lance attempted to say something that Keith couldn't understand, his mouth full of a McGriddle breakfast sandwich. Dude, I can't hear you with your mouth full. Lance swallowed his food. I said, we need to make a plan, like set boundaries for kissing and stuff. Keith gulped down a piece of his breakfast sandwich too fast, burning his tongue in the process. Jesus! He reached for his orange juice and took a swig. What? Boundaries, Lance repeated. For when we're at my parents' house. Oh yeah, I got that. That means we'll have to kiss. Yeah. Fuck, you serious? Lance spoke without moving his eyes off the road, though Keith could tell that Lance wasn't completely excited about the idea either. It was kind of in the job description. You're my fake boyfriend. That'll include fake kissing, fake hugging, fake holding hands, so that we can convince my family we're gay for each other after all. But I'm not gay for you, Keith declared this louder than necessary. Keith wasn't gay for Lance. Not in a million years. Lance was a pest, obnoxious, loud, and far too boisterous for Keith's taste. Lance looked ready to bang his head against the steering wheel. Obviously not. Obviously, idiot. That's why it's fake. Keith ran through all the reasons why he'd ever agreed to do something stupid. Originally, it sounded great. Free place to stay for Christmas, which meant free food, and a nice house. And probably stuff to do instead of playing Overwatch for 2 weeks straight. He was getting 2 months of laundry out of it, and Lance's mom was supposed to be a great cook, but kissing Lance on the mouth? Whatever. Keith began pulling out his phone to see how much longer they had till Mesa de Cablo, Arizona. Whatever. Keith began pulling out his phone to see... already read that. Sorry. I'll kiss you, I guess, but only in front of your family. This is specifically to keep up the act for your parents. There's also the issue of my abuela. That Keith realized that would be a problem. She's homophobic, right? How will she react? Not entirely sure, Lance confessed. I've never really introduced a boyfriend to her. It's the girlfriend she's really wanted to meet. God, what What a mess you've gotten into. Lance flinched. I know, I fucked up. And I'm trying to fix it. But honestly, this'll just be me facing my grandma once and for all. I have to sooner or later, so I guess it's a good thing. Keith was shocked. He hadn't expected Lance to choose a mature approach. Even if even know how to be mature. In the first place, Keith was silent for a few moments, turning his head to watch the desert moving. To watch the moving desert that passed by his window. You love your grandma, right? Lance's response was immediate. Of course I do. She's my abuela. So? Keith swallowed. So you want her approval? Of course. Then why are you bringing home a boy if she'd rather see a girl? Keith turned his gaze back to Lance, expecting a legit answer. It was so weird talking about love and family. Keith never had either of those things. Maybe it's because my emotions matter too? Lance's eyebrows furrowed. I don't know. I like boys just as much as girls. And that's something she'll need to accept. If she really loves me, she'll... Lance swore loudly, swerving on the road. Why the hell am I telling you this? It's angsty and emotional, and super fucking weird. I'm uncomfortable. Let's change the subject. Keith happily obliged. Your transformer is stupid. He flicked at the small Optimus Prime that hung from the car's mirror. It was back to bickering for the two boys, fighting over the ornaments, true level of tackiness. Keith would never say it, but he liked the Transformer figurine. He only called it stupid to change topics, and inside, Keith was pleased they could return to their regularly scheduled dispute. Bonding and talking about personal things was just not their style. Alright, so that was part 1. I hope you enjoyed. Again, I didn't actually get permission because the author of the book here on Wattpad isn't the actual author. So I just kind of had to work with it because I couldn't find the actual author. But if you find any book or anything you want me to read, then just say, and sorry, it wasn't. It's been a while since I've posted last, but yeah, anyway, I should probably go because it's pretty late, and I have to study for friggin' my mock exams, which start on Tuesday, if I've remembered right. Anyway, I'll hopefully I'll post tomorrow. Probably won't, but I hope I do. And yeah, I'll see you then. Bye, guys.